All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the DTM Music Podcast. I'm Devin Dunnigan, and we are back today with another brand spanking new episode. Today, we're going to be talking Van Halen, Women and Children First from 1980. This was a listener pick. We put out a poll on the group, and they picked this record. There were three choices: Rat Detonator, this album, and Creedence Clearwater Revival Chronicles Volume 1. And this won, I think, by a landslide. I think this actually won by a pretty good amount of votes. But also with me, before we get any further in the episode, I've got Mr. Stephen Mott here with me. How you doing, Stephen?
Great, Brother Jake.
All righty. And Pete, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good.
All righty. So, yeah, this is the third Van Halen record, released in 1980, produced by Ted Templeman, engineered by Don Landy, and recorded over a 2-week period. Very, very fast recording, but it's kind of different from the previous albums because this implements a little bit more overdubs into the sound, and also it doesn't include as many backing vocals. There are backing vocals on the album, but the overall percentage of the backing vocals are pretty low. And that's unusual because, the first two albums were very background vocals focused on a lot of the songs. So, yeah, I love this record. This is probably out of the classic six-pack, and I guess you consider a different kind of truth to be the classic 7-pack, but this is probably the one I go to the least until here recently. I picked this album up, and it's, to me, the black sheep of the classic 7-pack. This is the one I don't think gets as much love. I know some people say Fair Warning is the Van Halen album from that era that doesn't get as much love. I think this one is, because you don't hear people talk about this one as much as you do, say, like Fair Warning. You've got Mean Street and Hear About It Later, So This Is Love, Dirty Movies, stuff like that is kind of talked about. And then you have on Diver Down, Oh Pretty Woman, Dancing in the Street, Where Have All the Good Times Gone, Little Guitars. That's a classic record as well. 1984 is a given. Van Halen 1 and Van Halen 2 are givens. The entire canon of albums are general classic albums, and this one kind of falls into the category of where you have a lot of kind of deep tracks. You have some classic, very, very huge hits for the band, but a lot of this album is not very much talked about when it comes to Van Halen and Van Halen albums. But Stephen, what are your opening thoughts on this record? Getting into it, kind of your overall thoughts with this record and Van Halen in general. I know you've been getting into the band a little bit more here recently, and this is the first Van Halen review we've done since 5150, and the first Van Halen review we've done on this show after Eddie's unfortunate death. And still a huge loss to the world of music. Huge, huge loss. And Stephen, just go ahead with your opening opinions on this record.
All right. Well, my opening opinion is that when we did the review on 5150 a while back, on this channel, it was really I did not get into it at all. I didn't understand the music as much, if you will, and I don't know. I just really hated that album, 5150, and now I've actually grown to like it pretty much all the songs, pretty much just because I've started to understand the band setup and the way they kind of what they're going for with the overall sound of the stuff. And I've heard some Eddie Van Halen interviews, and he's talked about that it's really, some of the stuff is more for effect, and I'm starting to understand that concept more, than what they're thinking with it. And I started to get into a lot more, like Devin said, and listen to some different albums. And I've heard this one about twice through. Today I heard it all the way through. And then a couple of days ago, or like last week, I think I heard it all the way through too when I was driving. So anyway, that's my opening thoughts. So back to you, Devin.
All righty. So, Pete, what are your opening thoughts on this record and Van Halen as a band?
At the beginning of it, I thought I wasn't gonna like it, but as soon as the first song, it sounded like it had a AC/DC vibe to it almost, and
Okay.
one of them had like a Stevie Ray Vaughan riff or something on it. It sounded like, and it sounded pretty cool. It had pretty good solo stuff on it too.
Pretty interesting. All right. So, I mean, go ahead.
So,
All right. So, I mean, I'm not gonna get on here and bash Sammy Hagar because I have grown to like that era of the band. I know a lot of people bash Sammy Hagar, and some people go to the extreme when it comes to that particular subject. This is the influence. These classic six albums, these are the influence. I mean, this is. I'm not saying 5150 did not influence someone to pick up a guitar or influence someone to get into music, but not to the extent that these albums did. I mean, this was the innovation. 5150 was kind of going off of the success of these records and basically continuing. And I mean, people act like sometimes that the reason Van Halen succeeded with Sammy Hagar is because Sammy Hagar joined the band. That's not true. First of all, I mean, Sammy Hagar was actually almost getting to kind of his height at the time that he joined Van Halen. I mean, VOA was a pretty big record, but all the records before that were kind of lackluster sales. I think starting with Standing Hampton, when he got with Geffen, that was when the sales started to pick up. And I mean, Sammy Hagar he came from he was a veteran singer at the time he joined. I mean, he was in Montrose, and Montrose, Van Halen drew influence from Montrose. So I mean, there you go. I mean, I'm not going to get on here and bash Sammy Hagar because I don't hate the guy. I know a lot of people really do. They hate the guy all the way around. Whichever way you look at it, he's basically a bane to everyone's existence. And I don't feel that way. I mean, I like those records on their own. They're not classic Van Halen. They're all on their own. They're a totally different band. And I mean, the whole thing with the Van Hagar, that's pretty much what I guess I would consider that is Van Hagar, not Van Halen, because I mean it's a totally different band. And even that goes for the Sharon era. I like that album. I know a lot of people hate that record. I really like that album. I thought it was a brave album for the time. So, I mean, regardless, we'll get more into Women and Children first right now. So, let's get into it with the first track, and The Cradle Will Rock. So, this is classic Van Halen when it starts off with that keyboard intro. I mean, I always thought it was a guitar when I first heard this album. It's not a guitar, it's a Wurlitzer, I believe. I believe that's played by Diamond David Lee Roth. So, I mean, he was putting his own kind of putting his own brand on things, and he was kind of putting his spin on the whole sound. And I mean, this album is kind of different from the previous records. I mean, they kind of this is where the change in sound started. They started to get darker with this album, and they would go even further with Fair Warning, and then they would kind of lighten it back up with Diver Down. But I mean, this is a great song. First single, of course. I believe only performed on this tour. I think they performed it on this tour and it was done, and it never really appeared in the set until the reunion in 07 when they had Wolfgang on bass the time. So, regardless, amazing song, a great way to open this record. I love this song. The breakdown in the middle, that and then it goes into the solo. I mean, that's fantastic. Probably my favorite part of the song. That solo is so killer, and I mean, can't express my love for the song. A really good live version on the Tokyo Dome that album that was released in 2015. Some great stuff on that particular version. You got at the end of it, they go into kind of a smoke on the water riff and then ends the song. I thought that fit fantastic with the track. So, I mean, love the song. One of my favorites on the album. Probably not my favorite, though, but I still love it. So, Steven, you take this track.
All right, and the Cradle Would Rock. I think it's a pretty decent song altogether. I don't really think it would just blow anybody away or nothing, but in any sense, really, if you know what I mean. But it's pretty decent to listen to, and I like Eddie Van Halen's experimental approach to his solos. Is what I've got in my notes here, and what I mean by that is it's very unpredictable, and you really don't know what's coming with his stuff, with any of this stuff. And I think that's what he's going for, kind of for that effect of like off the wall kind of stuff. And really, that kind of pertains to this whole album as a whole, to be honest. Not to give anything away, but it does seem very off the wallish, especially at certain points, as we're going to get to in a little bit. But I think this is a pretty decent song, and I just kind of wonder what the band thinks of David Lee Roth's songwriting, because some of these, we're going to get into it, but the songwriting is kind of questionable at points too. And this is a good example for me. It's kind of off, but anyway, so back to you, Devin.
So, Pete, take and the Cradle Will Rock.
At the beginning of it, I thought it was pretty cool solos on it, on what it was on. Beginning of it, I thought it had like an AC/DC vibe or something. And some of the lyrics, like Steven says, it's kind of random, in my opinion. And that's all I got to say.
Okay. So then we move to track number 2, Everybody Wants Some. So this, another classic Van Halen track. This did stay in the set after this album's release and was performed after Diamond David Lee Roth left the band in '85. I mean, when they did the whole Eat 'em and Smile and Skyscraper, and I believe even A Little Ain't Enough, this was in the set. And then he started doing it again in the late '90s, early 2000s. But I mean, this is an amazing song. I love the the drum intro. Kind of sort of made it into the Sammy Hagar era when they were playing the song Panama Live. They would open the song up with that drum intro, and it fit. I mean, it's on the live album, Live Right Here, Right Now, which is actually a really good live release. But I mean, I love it. I believe this was the second single from the record. It's on the Best of Both Worlds compilation from. So I mean, it's a greatest hit for the band. I mean, it's one of their best tracks. I love it. It's classic Van Halen, and the sound effects and all of that. I mean, you've got all that little ear candy and stuff like that in a lot of these songs. I mean, you hear all this stuff, especially listening to it on it with a good set of headphones or whatever. You really hear a lot of kind of stuff, especially when stuff is remastered. Like the version I have here is the remasters from years back, and you can actually make out stuff that you couldn't make out on the older releases of the album. I mean, even the End of Cradle Will Rock's the same way. You can hear stuff on there, some rhythm tracks that are really cool. And I mean, they overdubbed a pretty good bit on this record comparing to the previous record. But the records, yeah, I love it. So, Steve, take it. Everybody Wants Some.
Well, to tell you the truth, the production in my mind, it sounded well, not bare necessarily, but it just seemed kind of straightforward as far as the production goes, just for that. And I think it's that's for the whole thing in general, because all the production seemed the same on all the album. I mean, on all the songs. which is a good thing. But let's see, good quality song. Kind of like I said on the last one, it seems like it was in the same sort of from the same vein or from the same place as from the Cradle Will Rock, and the Cradle Will Rock. I mean, and it seems very straightforward as far as the songwriting and just the whole thing, the way it was put together. And to me, it seems for Van Halen, straightforward usually isn't something that you would think about to describe their music, and that's because they kind of like to be very experimental, and they like to have a lot of different parts. For this whole album in particular, especially on these first 3 or 4 songs, um, it really seems like they just wanted to get it over with, like they just wanted to cut the tune and just be done with it. What it seemed like to me, and I don't really think the band liked the songs too much because they just kind of did the same thing over and over, as far as anybody except for Eddie Van Halen and the singer. Everybody else was doing the same thing over and over and over again on a loop, and it just seemed like they didn't like the songs. They was just trying to get it over with, honestly, especially with this song. But to me, it's a decent song, and again, it's not the best. It's not, to me. It's not really, to disagree with Devin. It's not really of the best of Van Halen, but it's kind of almost to that tier. It's like a tier below. But anyway, back to you, Devin.
So, Pete, what are your thoughts on Everybody Wants Some?
I thought it was not all there, or it wasn't the greatest one in the album, but it's there basically. But the beginning of it, it was like a long spot on it with just the drums on it. It's made no sense, but it sounded good though. That's my thoughts on it though.
Okay. So then we'll move to track number 3, Fool. So this is kind of where we get into the deep tracks. I mean, I love this song. It's a very heavier song for the record. I mean, it gets into kind of this Sabbath sort of riff at the very beginning of it. I mean, Eddie Van Halen and Tony Iommi remained good friends through Eddie Van Halen's life. And I mean, this song is amazing. It starts a little kind of back and forth between Dave and Eddie, and then it's kind of bluesy, and then it kind of goes into this very heavy, just straightforward. I can't think of really the way to explain it. It's just kind of this bop sort of sound, and I mean, I love the song though. I think it's really cool. I'm not really sure if it was ever performed live or not. It could have very well been. That's part of the research I really didn't get into, but I mean, yeah, I love the song. I think the song is fantastic. So, Steven, what are your thoughts on Fools?
All right, Fool. What I got down, I don't remember exactly if it was Fool or Fools or what, but what I've got written down on here on my phone, I like the riff and the Eddie Van Halen, all the guitar parts really by him. I'm assuming it's all by him. I'm pretty sure it is. But knowing the structure of the band, I like all the guitar parts. But as for the rest of the band, I'm going to come back to the same thing as for the last track. It seems like they just kind of went around and around and done the same thing, and they didn't really. It seemed like the band wasn't really into it. Really, I just kind of got bored listening to it overall, and I liked the guitar parts and stuff, and some of the stuff, but some of the other parts, like the drum stuff was pretty good, but it just didn't seem like it just kind of seemed to drag on at times, like it was just kind of same thing over and over. But for the song itself, I just didn't really think it was all really that great. I mean, it was pretty average to me, kind of mediocre sounding, honestly. And it just kind of comes back to the whole David Lee Roth songwriting thing, because, I mean, to put it in a nutshell, Eddie Van Halen writes the music, and whoever it may be, of the band leader, the singer, will write the lyrics. I guess is what the pattern it follows every time. And if really what I'm trying to get to is David Lee Roth was not the best with songwriting on this whole album. So, and this is a prime example. This was a bad song. So back to you, Devin.
All righty. So, Pete, what are your thoughts on Fools?
I like some of the guitar playing on it and a slide sound to it, but at certain spots it just sounded random when they was playing it. And
Okay.
that's basically it of my thoughts.
Okay. All right. And just before we move on here, I just want to say real quick about the lyrics on this particular song. This is a prime example of Diamond Dave at the top of his game. I love the lyrics to this song. I mean, I listened to it earlier, and the lyrics were amazing. But, I mean, opinions are opinions. I mean, whatever. So, then we move to track number 4, Romeo Delight. So, probably should have opened side 2 of the record, but still, nonetheless, it's a good closer to side 1 regardless. A good song, classic Van Halen. I love this song. Opened many of the shows. I believe it opened up through Fair Warning, maybe even 1984. No, never mind. I think 1984 was Unchained opening, but I mean, regardless, a classic Van Halen song. I love this track, and I mean, it's the pinnacle of Van Halen. I mean, this is quintessential Van Halen right here. I mean, I love it. I love the breakdown in the middle where they're like, feel my heartbeat, feel my heartbeat. I love all of that. I mean, I'm not even going to attempt to sing, but I mean, I love it. I think the track is amazing. Some great guitar work on here. I love it. So, I mean, there's also a good version during the Sharon years. They pulled this song out and was performing it then, and it was really good. I loved it. So, Steven, what are your thoughts on Romeo Delight?
All right, we're on track number 4, I believe. So, this is the type of song that really is kind of just more for effect overall. And what to elaborate on that is I just mean like it's not supposed to be this great melodic, popular great song. It's just like David said, it's like the Van Halen back then, David Lee Roth sound. That's what it kind of I've got written down like it just seems kind of like like that Runaway Train type sound. That's a good way to describe it. Like kind of hard rock Runaway Train drum, like with the driving rhythm, mainly, especially with this particular song. And I do agree with that analogy. But the thing is, I don't know. I guess it's just maybe because it's not quite my cup of tea all the way. So I'm not going to say it's a bad song. It's just that I'm not the biggest fan of that sound of music. If you know what I'm saying, you just have to listen to this song to know what I mean. But anyway, I'm just going to say that I just really can't relate to it. But anyway, that's besides the point. So back to you, Devin.
All righty, and I love that analogy. Runaway train. That was kind of the analogy that was used to describe the way the producer did these records with them. I mean, he tried it even with Aerosmith, the album Done with Mirrors that we did a while back. That was kind of a strategy used, was kind of catch this out of control, speaking, no pun intended, loss of control for the band. And I mean, that's just a great way to describe it. So, I mean, there you go. So, Pete, what are your thoughts on Romeo Delight?
I like the guitar parts and the music overall, but some of it's pretty good and some of it's not all the way. But that's my thoughts.
All righty. So, then we move to track number 5 in the opening of side 2, Tora Tora. So, this is not but like, I believe, 40 something seconds long, maybe not even that. It's a short, doomy instrumental. and you've got this backing track, vocals, and you can find it on YouTube, like basically the vocals going forward, and I think it's just as much a kind of, I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. It's kind of a random mess, regardless of as far as the vocals go. But I mean, I love the music. I think the heaviness of the actual instrumental part is cool. I think that's really, really cool part of the song. So I mean, Stephen, what are your thoughts on Tora Tora?
Well, I think we've had this discussion before the recording of this episode, but I'll go ahead and say it again in a different way. This is going to be verbatim notes. Chapter 1 here, people. This is a lifeless piece of dog crap, comma, and pointless. So, yeah, I mean, I've heard Devin on his channel, his Devin Dunnigan channel, talk about this type of stuff, that like these instrumentals on these albums and stuff like that, and it doesn't. It's just bad. I mean, it's just. I mean, the first 20 seconds of it or so, it's just like background noise or something, uh, and then it's like after that, it's just a bunch of random crap. Even then, it's not. It doesn't get that much better, to be honest. And it's only 40 seconds. And now I did hear Eddie Van Halen say in an interview that he likes to do that. For whatever reason, he, at least one or two songs an album, he likes to add these little interludes, but they're not part of the track. The next track, they're part of they're their own track for theirself. And this is an example of that. Now another example would be like Little Guitars off of Diver Down. Uh, I know that's completely different album and all, but just an example. It would be like the intro of that is like he was influenced by a Spanish type guitar player, and he just made his own thing to sound like that, and it was a whole nother track to itself called Little Guitars Intro, and then it was the next track on the album was Little Guitars, and it was like a completely different thing. But he just likes to do that, and for this he shouldn't have done it, but for Little Guitars it worked out good, but for this it didn't. So back to you, Devin.
All right, Pete, what's your thoughts on Tora Tora?
It's stupid. Because
Okay.
some of the parts on it, it sounds like the music, but at the other part of it, it sounds like they're just screaming at some of the parts on it. It's random as crap. It's junk.
Okay. So then we move to the next track number 6, Loss of Control. So I've seen a lot of people hate on it. They really don't like it. I don't hate this song. I love this song actually. I love the fast and furious nature to it. I love the chorus. A lot of people hate the chorus with the very low, kind of semi high pitch sort of. It's just like weird vocals, and I like that. I think it's a good, heavy, cool song. And there was a video actually made for this track, actually, which is pretty interesting. And I love it. I think it's just fine. And it's just spoiler alert. People hate on this song. I have a song that a lot of people love that I don't really like, and I will get there. But I mean, it's a good song. I enjoy it. I think it's great. I believe this was performed live on the tour for it. So, I mean, whatever. It's a great song in my opinion. So, Steven, what are your thoughts on Loss of Control?
Now, this one was very, very odd, in my opinion. This is a very far out and weird comparison. But you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Leonard Skinner, Floyd, I believe is what it's called. It's one of those songs that, like Devin said, it's like an experimental approach. Like you can sort of take that and say, well, they were just trying to be different, but at the same time, it just doesn't sound good. Period. I mean, it's experimental and it's different, but I mean, it's too different, and it's just weird. I don't know. It's just bad. Uh, and anyway, it's from that. It kind of goes back to that Runaway Train sound. It's in that same vein of the driving rhythm and all, and I just it's just kind of hokey, to be honest. It's just stupid, and it continues to just get worse as it goes on. And that's kind of paraphrasing from my notes, but because I had some different words to describe it, some colorful words, but I won't use those. So anyway, I think this is but I will say that this whole album kind of it has the same similar production sound and all to it, and I think they did a good job with that. I kind of I'll just venture to say I like the production. It's kind of simplistic, and it's not really a gleamy production or whatever you want to say. It's not really any part of that or commercial sounding. It's really just straight to the point. Rock and roll. But the overall production really sounds. I don't want to say it sounds dead, but it just kind of sounds like dull. It's kind of a dull sounding production overall. The overall band sound. But that's not the band's fault. That's just the mixer. But I don't know. It just sounds a little dull. But other than that, it's fine. So back to you, Devin.
All right, and this kind of sounds actually like a predecessor to Hot for Teacher in a lot of ways. That kind of riff reminds me of Hot for Teacher quite a bit. So, Pete, what are your thoughts on Loss of Control?
I thought it sounded weird because when it says loss of control, I thought it said pup control or something weird like that. And that's why I thought it was weird. That's my thoughts on it.
Okay. So then we move to track number 7, Take Your Whiskey Home. So this is kind of a bluesier number, and this dates back all the way to the earliest demos with the Cherokee demos from '74. This was prior to Michael Anthony joining the band on bass. And I mean, this song, I love it. I mean, it opens up with this acoustic intro, and then it goes right into this kind of bluesy, sleazy kind of sound. And I love it. I think it's amazing. Great track. There's a version online where it's Corey Taylor, John Five, Michael Anthony, and Fred Corey all performing in this song, and it's fantastic. I really recommend you looking up that version of the song as well. But I love this song. I think it's great, and seems to be a little bit of copy and paste on here because when the acoustic intro cuts off, it's just like it just shuts off and then goes into the actual song. But regardless, I love the song. I think it's amazing. Great track. Don't think this one was performed live on the tour, but I could be very well wrong. Like I said, I didn't research that, but I love the song. Great track, and it's kind of reminds me of a song from Diamond Dave's solo career later in his career, Dropping the Bucket, that's on A Little Ain't Enough. Reminds me of a lot of that track. Go look up that song and then listen to this song. There is a huge similarity, and I love both songs. So I mean, we're gonna do A Little Ain't Enough one of these days. But I mean, great track. Steven, take this song.
Well, I'm not sure if it's this song or one we've already done. I couldn't remember which one it was on, but there was one point. At one point, David Lee Roth was making some monkey noise or gorilla noises or something. I don't know if it was this one or the one before. It was somewhere in this area. And but anyway, I
Everybody
just wanted to point
wants song.
Okay, and okay, that was way back then. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was that far back, but anyway, that was odd. I just forgot to comment on that because I forgot which one it was on. I forgot to put it in my notes on my phone. But anyway, we're on track number 7 of 9, I believe, and I guess it's 9. I hope. Anyway, the intro sounds very disjointed and just out of tune, out of time. It's just off the wall. I mean, like some of that stuff we was talking about, like they say the 2004 tour. That tour, I don't even know what it's called, a tour, but it was like Eddie Van Halen was playing, kind of off the wall type stuff at times, and it still sounded good. I mean, the stuff he was doing, most people can't even do anyway. But it's like he started just kind of, playing just loose, off the wall stuff. Like, it's just. But anyway, this is what that reminds me of. It just sounds like it's almost, but this sounds out of time. I mean, and then farther from that, the rest of the song doesn't get any better. And this is an interesting analogy here, but just a little joke. It's worse than two 91 Skinners put together. That's how bad this song is. I told you that. I told you I was going to get to that, Devin. But anyway, something to do with 91 Skinner. I just like to bring that up because that was the worst album we've ever done. And there's been some other zeros, but this I was going to give it away, but I'll just give a hint. This album could be a 0 out of 10. So just stay tuned and just find out if it is. So back to you, Devin.
But it's not. All right, Pete, what's your thoughts on Take Your Whiskey Home?
I thought it had a really cool acoustic sounds to it, and then it goes to electric guitar later on, but it sounds similar to sound to the Leonard Skinner album called The Last Rebel. The first few songs on that, it has like acoustic sound to that, like that one does, and it sounds pretty good. I liked it. I think it's overall pretty good sound to it because of the acoustics. That's my thoughts on it.
Okay. So then we move to track number 8. Could This Be Magic? AKA Women and Children First. I always just consider it to be the title track, honestly, because they say it in the chorus, but it comes in with this very atmospheric sound. You have like this, it's an extremely live sounding song. You have this like rain effect in the background, and then they come in with the acoustic guitars, and it just has this kind of big, as Pete put it on the previous track, acoustic sound. And I mean, it's just a really, really good song. It's very different for the band, but I love it. I think it's amazing. Really, really cool song. Very kind of bluesy. Reminds me a little bit of Ice Cream Man from the first record, but I love it. And then you've got Nicolette Larson singing some backing vocals on this song in places. You have to kind of listen. I know when I listened to it on my stereo a couple of weeks back, right before we were going to do this episode, I could pick up here and there where she was at. And I mean, we were recording this album way after the fact of that, but I mean, regardless, I love the song. I think the track's really cool. And Steven, what are your thoughts on Could This Be Magic?
All right. Just number 8, just period. Just a horrible, out of time, disjointed mess. Stupid song. I mean, this is another prime example of them just trying to just do stuff for effect. They like, I've even heard. I know I'm making a lot of references to these interviews and stuff, but I've just been really into it lately, and I think it's kind of interesting that Eddie Van Halen has said in interviews and stuff that they really, a lot of people don't understand that, in his words, that people don't understand that the sense of humor and their music, and that's the way he described it. And I know that's not the only element to the music, but I mean, I guess that's what they're trying to do, just trying to be kind of off the wall and just kind of just, for effect. But it just, for some reason, it just doesn't. I just don't take it that well, if it makes any sense, Like, even if I know what he's trying to do with it, but it's like something you would come up with while you were like on drugs. I mean, they probably were, honestly, but I wouldn't be surprised. But that's besides the point, as I'm famed to say over and over again. Besides the point. And what the point actually is the song overall is not good. Should have been left off the album. It was just a mess. Just period. it was just it crapped over more continually as it went on and on. It got worse, and I sing a lot. So back to you, Devin.
Okay. Pete, what are your thoughts on Could This Be Magic?
It had pretty good acoustic sounds to it, and then slide guitar sound to it. But then it lost me at the singing part on it, though, on how they sung it. That's my thoughts on it.
Okay. And just a little another tidbit before we move on. I don't know if Diamond Dave's playing rhythm on this song or not. I know there is 2 guitar tracks. You've got someone. I know Eddie's playing lead, but I'm just wondering if David Lee Ross playing any rhythm, because I know he has been known to play a little bit of acoustic rhythm here and there, especially in the concert, like Ice Cream Man and stuff like that. But I mean, well, I guess we can move on to the next track now. That was just a small tidbit. The final track on the album, In a Simple Rhyme. Probably going to get crap for this. I don't get this song. This is another song that dates back a while. The Cherokee demos that I referenced a little bit ago from '74. And I think there are interesting parts to this song, but this is a song, like the first time I heard this record, I enjoyed the song, but I don't get this song. I don't. A part of me wants to really hate the song, but I really can't I can't bring myself to hate the song, but I just don't connect with it very much. I just don't get it. And I mean, I know they played it live here recently on, I believe, the last tour before Eddie's passing. But I mean, that was cool to see. I mean, that's one thing. Even if it's a song I don't like, if they do throw something out live like that, I'm really happy to see them kind of acknowledging stuff like that. But I mean, it's just a song I'm not a huge fan of, and I mean, there are parts to the song I do like, but I mean, it is what it is. And then there's a hidden track at the very end of the song. I'll just throw it on in with this, which is called Growth. And the track was supposed to be kind of a prelude to what the next album would be. I think the idea was for them to pick the song up and flesh it out, make a full song out of it for the next record. And I mean, it's a very heavy song. I love it. They played a lot live during some of the later Roth tours, and I thought that was really, really cool. But I love it. I think that instrumental part's really, really cool. So, Stephen, what are your thoughts on In a Simple Rhyme?
Well, kind of like the last song on the album. I don't think. Well, I mean track number 8, I should say. Kind of like that one. I don't think it should have been on the album, and I think this should have been a 7-song album. Honestly, that would have been better off, in my opinion. I think it should have been 7 songs, and then just let them flesh out each song individually, and let Eddie solo for 2 or 3 more minutes. Honestly, I think they should have. There was a thing where I remember him talking about like that. Eddie said that they didn't like the producers and stuff. I think it might have been Ted Templeman. I'm not sure, but one of them like that said that, like, the producer said that no more solos. They didn't like the idea of the solos in the songs, and in his words, he used something different. But I'll just say it's bull crap, and it's stupid, and freaking stupid. But anyway, he used other words. But anyway, I agree. And honestly, I think I can't remember who you said produced this album. I think it was Ted Templeman. Not sure, but he probably was pushing the band to make it a lot more straightforward and not really to flesh them out any, is what I'm saying, and really straightforward as possible, and just get through the song. Maybe a little short solo, and in some of the songs there are some little interludes. But I mean, probably the producer didn't even want that, and that's ridiculous because that's what really Van Halen is all about. is the really off the wall in a good way type of thing, and the creativity, especially by Eddie Van Halen and stuff, coming up with the different parts. And you know, I know I got off on a way tangent with that. I got way off the wall. But anyway, to get back on track, this song itself was not good. But the thing is, I just think that if they would have let Eddie go a little more with this album and do what he wanted to do, because I get the sense that it was, if you know, it was way more stripped down than to what he would have probably done with it, if that makes any sense. The producer probably cut a lot of, I've heard Devin talk about stuff like the movies he watched, like the stuff gets, like cut to nothing, like by the MPA or whatever it's called. The movies, it's just that's what this album is for me. It seems like it was cut to nothing. Like it's supposed to have a couple of other guitar parts or a keyboard. I know the keyboard part or something. It's just not there. But or maybe a longer solo or something. But anyway, that's just for that was kind of for the whole album. But excuse me for that. But this song's bad. So back to you, Devin.
Okay, and that's a issue I've heard a lot of people say with this album, is that the songs are generally, they have potential, but there's not enough Eddie on this record. That's an issue I've heard a lot of people actually say, and you bringing that up made me remember that. I mean, people have often said that's an issue they have with the record, is that there's not enough Eddie. I think there's a lot of Eddie on the album personally, but I mean, regardless, your opinion is your opinion. I mean, that's interesting. I've heard that before, so that's interesting of you to bring that up. So, Pete, what are your thoughts on it in a simple rhyme?
I'm not a big fan of it at all, really and truly, because some of it's really off the wall sounding crap to me, and it ain't all there and all that great to me. So that's all my thought.
Okay. Okay. So that brings an end to this album, and this was released on March 26th, 1980, recorded from December 79 through February of 1980, a month before it was released. Recorded at Sunset Sound, Los Angeles, and that was the studio, and that was where they recorded the previous couple of records. Clocks in at 33 minutes and 35 seconds. Very short record, the way I like them personally. And produced by Ted Templeman and engineered by Don Landy. This would be their third record. And this would go to number 6 on the U.S. Billboard 200. And there would be one single release. So Everybody Wants Some was not a single, but one single released off the record was In the Cradle Will Rock, and it was not as successful as the previous one. It only hit number 55 on the Billboard Hot 100, and this album is certified 3 times platinum in the USA. And going back to Could This Be Magic, Diamond Dave does play some acoustic guitar on there. So, I mean, the band's David Lee Roth, lead vocals, and acoustic guitar on Could This Be Magic. Eddie Van Halen, guitars, electric piano, and backing vocals. Michael Anthony, bass guitar, backing vocals. Alex Van Halen on drums. And then you have Nicolette Larson on backing vocals for the song Could This Be Magic? And I mean, yeah, I love this record. I think this record is great. There's also a unreleased instrumental, often referred to Act Like It Hurts, which was the title Eddie Van Halen originally wanted for Tora Tora. And the riff actually was House of Pain from 1984. And I mean, yeah, I love it. So from the research I'm doing right now on the podcast, it seems that Diamond Dave did not play the keyboard on the Cradle Will Rock, which I thought he did. I'd read that he did at one point or another. But I mean, regardless, I think this is the black sheep of the Van Halen catalog. A lot of people don't really reference this album that very much, except for And the Cradle Will Rock. But I love this record. I think this record is amazing. And I mean, yeah, it set forth Van Halen going forward. And the album cover, just real quick, and then we'll start wrapping this thing up here. But I've seen a lot of people say they hate the album cover for this record. I like it. I mean, having the band on the front, and it's very simplistic with the font and everything like that. I've always loved it. I thought the shot of the band was iconic. I've always really loved that. And there is a poster, an infamous poster, which is Diamond Dave chained to a fence or something like that. And it was photographed by someone here. I saw it just a minute ago. Helmut New, and I have no idea who that person is, but a German photographer. But that's an infamous poster included in the vinyl, and then it's in the booklet with the CD and all. So I mean, yeah, I love this record. Great record. And my rating, real quick, before I pass it off to Stephen and Pete, my ranking would be a 10 out of 10. I love this record. Steve, what are your rankings for this record and final thoughts?
But anyway, 4 out of 10, drawn out. So back to you, Devin.
All right. Pete, what are your final thoughts and rankings for the record?
I'd probably give it about 7 or 8 because it had really good acoustic sound to it in certain parts of it and had good slide sound to it. The singing stuff like that is probably not the best because some of it, in one of the songs, it just sounded like random screaming sound to it. Or them yelling like what Steven said, like a monkey or something. And it was random. But the acoustics and the guitar parts to it sound pretty good. That's my thoughts on it.
Okay, what's your rating for the record?
About 7 or 8.
7 or 8, okay. So, yeah, that brings an end to the podcast tonight, or today, or in the morning, whenever you hear this. And yeah, I want to thank our supporters out there for choosing this record for us to review. This was a very interesting episode. I think one of the most informative episodes we've done so far. And I'm looking forward to some other listener audience picks going forward. I mean, I think that's going to be pretty cool. So, what do we got on deck for next episode, Stephen?
What about Hugh Thrall?
That'd be cool with me.
I think that's cool with
me.
I've been thinking about that.
Okay.
I've been sort of listening to a few tracks off of that, and I hadn't even heard the whole album. I just like the production style on it.
That's cool. I love that album. So, guys, look forward to the next episode. We are going to be talking Hugh Thrall, so that's going to be very, very, very cool. So that brings an end to the episode. I mean, like, comment, subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on Podbean. We're on Anchor. We're all over the freaking place at this point. We're on Spotify through the Anchor platform. I mean, we're out there. If you just look up the DTM Music Podcast, and you'll find us on any platform. I mean, we have a plethora of episodes at this point. I mean, we have a good back catalog of episodes. And yeah, I mean, like, comment, subscribe. We post those episodes up here a few days after they air on his channel. So that's just a little bit more content over here on this particular channel. And I mean, I do reviews on my YouTube channel as well. I mean, the Danger Zone reviews are gonna come back eventually. I'm trying to make time for some reviews, but I mean, it gets busy at times, so I don't get to do them as much anymore. But it's going to soon change. I'm going to be able to do a lot more of them. Got a couple albums I want to talk about for that channel, and it's very interesting albums. But I mean, just you can look up my name, Devin Dunnigan, and you'll find my YouTube stuff. I've got a plethora of episodes over there as well, some featuring Steven, especially on the commentaries. So yeah, I mean, that's it. That's the episode. And I mean, as I usually say, be safe, be healthy, stay free, stay frosty. God bless you all. And see you next time.